Hey everyone, Mr. Schultz here for parallel lines and transversals. So make sure that you write your first and last name up at the top and that you write your period number as well. So when we have two lines and that they are parallel, for example, we have line A and B right here, and it's cut by a transversal T right here. T's right here, see this T right there. Then there's going to be some angle relationships. The first thing that we remember is we remember that vertical angles are congruent. So these are going to be across from the vertex of each of these points right here. So I'm going to label them in red. So we understand that angle 1 is a vertical angle and is going to be congruent to angle 4. We know that the measure, I'm going to write it a little bit different. We know that the measure of angle 2 is going to equal the measure of angle 3. I'm going to go back to congruence, but this is pretty much the same thing right there. We're going to have to understand that the angle 5 is congruent to angle 8. And finally, angle 7 is congruent to angle 6. So these have the same values. So if angle 1 is 50, then angle 4 is going to be 50. So we also have alternate interior angles. So once again, these are congruent. So if they're on the inside, they're congruent. And so we're going to understand that, hey, alternate interior angles are congruent. I'm going to put yellow right there. So angle 4 has to be congruent to angle 5. They're on alternate sides of the transversal, and they are congruent. We also know that angle 6 and angle 3 are alternate interior angles, and they are congruent. Now, when we discuss linear pairs and supplementary angles, this is like the next level down. We're like, all right, first thing you need to remember is vertical angles. After that, alternate interior angles. After that, you have to understand that a linear pair or supplementary angles are equal to 180. So angle 1 plus angle 2, or the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 is equal to 180 degrees because it makes a line. Now, there's going to be so many different ones of these. So for example, angle 3 plus angle 1 is equal to 180 degrees, or in fact, the measures. So any two of these right next to each other are going to make a line. So just understand, add them together, they equal 180 degrees. Now, I like corresponding angles. I don't like a lot of these. But for example, corresponding angles are going to be angles that kind of correspond, meaning they're going to be in the same location. So if we look at the two red dots and we go down and to the left, we see a 3. On the top red dot, if we go down and to the right, on the bottom dot, we see angle 7. So these are corresponding. They're both down and to the left in comparison to where the transversal touches the line. So these are going to be congruent. They have the same measure. So angle 3 is congruent to angle 7. And angle 1 is going to match up to what? Angle which one? Angle 5. And we know that angle 2 matches up to angle 6. And finally, angle 4 matches up to angle 8. So these are all corresponding angles. Now, at this moment, I'm like, all right, just stop. You're good. You don't need to memorize the rest. If you memorize up to here, you're golden. But, they're always wanting us to do a little bit more. So alternate exterior angles. So for example, if we look at this 7 and this 2, they're on the outside and they alternate on either side of the transversal. So angle 7 is going to be congruent with angle 2. Now you could also think about this as angle 2 corresponds to angle 6, and angle 6 is a vertical angle to 7. There's ways to work around where you don't need to memorize every single one of these. So for example, angle 1 and angle 8 are on the outside, and they're alternate. They go on either side of the transversal, so they are alternate exterior. Or we could just be like, hey look, angle 1 corresponds to angle 5, and angle 5 is a vertical angle to 8, so angle 1 is congruent to angle 8. So once again, like I said, you don't need to know every single one. Now these right here are a little bit different. Consecutive interior. They're going to add up to 180. So the measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 5 equals 180 degrees. And the measure of angle 4 plus the measure of angle 6 is equal to 180 degrees. So if we're playing around with them, those are the responses, those are the answers we should get. So we can always make our comparisons and talk about it. But let's go on. So they want us to prove, let's do this first one. They want us to prove angle 4. Oh no, I put the wrong thing. Let me erase that. It's not. Oops, let's pause and go back. Alright, there we go, I fixed it. And it looks kind of gross. But it says prove angle 4 is congruent to angle 5. Well, the first thing that it doesn't tell us, but we can write in the given. We understand that, hey, line A and line B are parallel. Parallel. We know that because it is labeled. There's two little chevrons on these lines right here. So if you look right here, there's like a little, not an arrow, but it's like a chevron. Looks like a V, a sideways V on each one of these. That means that they're parallel. Now, due to that, I'm gonna be able to write my 2-column proof. So here's my proof. I know that line. So now I'm gonna do 2-column proof. I'm gonna have my 2 columns. I'm gonna have my statements, and I'm gonna have my reasons. And so let's pause. All right, so here's my 2 columns. I have my statements or my justified claims, and my reasons. Why is it, or why it is true. So the way I know that is, even if it's in the diagram, I know that, hey, it's either in the diagram or if it's stated. If they give it to us, we understand that. And we're like, cool. Now, for some of these, we can just literally just state, hey, this is true because, and give a reason. Let's give the reason. All right, so I can literally say that angle 4 and angle 5 are congruent because if the alternate interior angles are congruent, the lines are parallel. Oh no, not that one. I copied the wrong one. Let's pause. All right, so here it is. Now, I actually don't like this as much. Like, here's another version of it. Let's get the same. Our cup, if 2 lines up, and anyone say, no, I copied again wrong. But let's leave it at this. Now, I am of a mind to tell you, hey, you can shorten this up. You could just say, you don't have to have this terminology. You could just write down alternate interior angles are congruent. So you just need this part. As long as we can state, hey, look, this is true because of this. Like, for example, we could say vertical angles are congruent. We don't need. This is one of those postulates where it's we don't need to prove that it is true. We already know that alternate interior, spell it right though, interior angles are congruent. We don't need to prove it. However, we do need to state it. Why are we allowed to say it? Alternate interiors angles are congruent. There we go. There's an implication when it's cut by a transversal and they're parallel lines. Let's go on. So now we get to the work of it. What you're going to do the first couple is you're going to have to figure out what is it. So for example, 1, these are going to be corresponding. Like if we look at number 2 or number 3, it looks like, hey, it looks like it's corresponding again. What's kind of helpful is if you draw in the circle. So for example, number 5, these are going to be on either side, so they're alternate interior angles. So you can like go through this and you can name these. These are alternate interior angles. These are blah, 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 blah. For example, like if you're having trouble, cut out what you don't need. This line right here doesn't do anything. So if we cut it out, if we cover it up, we can see it a little bit better. This line right here doesn't do anything, so we can cut it out. And it looks like, hey, look, they're on either side of the transversal. This is the transversal. And they're on the inside of the 2 parallel lines. So there are alternate interior angles. All right, let's go on. Now, when we get to the harder ones, we have to figure out, for example, number 11, are they going to equal, are they going to be congruent? So let's say angle A and angle B, are they going to be congruent, or does angle A plus angle B equal 180 degrees? So for example, we can check out, are these congruent? So for number 11, we understand that, hey look, these are vertical, so they're going to be congruent. And then across, alternate interior angles are congruent. And then finally, vertical angles again. So we know that this angle should be 110 degrees. Now, you might be a little stuck right here for number 13, but if you understand this, you understand, hey, these are alternate interior angles. So then this plus this equals 180. So this is 100 right here. How much to get 180? Because it makes a linear pair. This guy has to be 80 degrees. And just for the heck of it, I want you guys to make sure that you're boxing your answers, because you're going to be dealing with a lot of adding and subtracting if they're supplementary. For example, hey look, this is alternate interior angles, so it's equal to 111 degrees. Let's continue. Let's do one more. Let's do this one. Number 17. I know that these are corresponding angles. So corresponding angles are congruent, so this is 53 degrees. All right, let's get to the hard stuff. So solve for x. So if I know that this is 90 degrees, then I know that this is 90 degrees. Then I know that this is 90 degrees because of vertical angles. Or no, not vertical angles, alternate interior angles. And then I know, hey look, this and this are true. So now I'm going to be making equations. I'm going to see that this is 21x plus 6 equals 90 degrees. And then I can just start solving for x. I'm going to subtract by x on both sides, or 6 on both sides, and get 84 is equal to 21x. Then if I use my handy dandy calculator to divide by 21, I should get x is equal to 4. So you have to figure out, hey, do these equal 180 or do they equal each other? If I add them up, do they equal 180? Or, so for example, this guy and this guy are alternate interior angles. So do they add up to 180 or are they congruent with each other? Well, they are congruent with each other. So I'm going to get 8x minus 4 is equal to 60 degrees. I just need to solve for x. Once again, get x by itself. You get 8x is equal to 64. And then what's the opposite of times 8? It's going to be divide by 8. And you get x is equal to 8. That's it. So we're going to work a couple days on this. Go ahead and work on this together with your groups. Let's do one more just to make sure you understand. It says find the measure of the angle. So in bold. So this is a couple steps. One, you have to figure out what is x equal, and then plug it back in to figure out what is this angle. So if you look at these two right here, we understand they're corresponding. So we have 6x is equal to 5x plus 10. If we solve for one of the x's, so move all the x's to one side, we see that x is equal to 10. But it's asking, what's the angle in bold? And the angle in bold is 6x equals what? So we might want to just go around and be like, all right, x plus 96 equals what? 20x plus 5 equals what? X plus 89 equals what? Well, in this case, 6 times 10 is 60. So 6x equals 60 degrees. And we can take off that question mark. All right, guys. I know this was a little much, but we're trying to condense all this geometry down to just a couple units. All right, guys. You have a wonderful day. I'll catch you in class.